What's going on, Diablo fans? Dobrunsky here, and today I'm going to be covering some pretty interesting Diablo 2 development information that was dropped via Max Schaefer, Eric Schaefer, and David Brevik at ExileCon 2019. Now, for those that don't know, these guys are part of the original team that made Diablo 1 and Diablo 2, and they revealed that during the later stages of Diablo 2's development that they lost all of the source code and assets. Now, quoting Max Schaefer directly, not just our code, but all of our assets irrevocably and fatally corrupted. You can only imagine what must have been going through these guys' minds right at the final stages of releasing Diablo 2, just losing everything. Again, quoting Eric Schaefer this time directly, "It's all gone. We were supposed to have a backup, but neglected it. We spent a day or two in sheer panic." Now, I can only really relate to like hundreds of hours invested into a single player character in Diablo 2 and then losing all of that progress from character file corruption. Remember, guys, always make backups if you're playing Diablo 2 single player, but that is the same problem that these guys had. Now, obviously, they were able to get around this because Diablo 2 was released, and they are able to do this via reconstructing the code and assets from beta versions of Diablo 2 that the developers took home to play. Now, the issue with this is that apparently the root code and assets were lost, which would in turn make it difficult for Blizzard to remaster Diablo 2 today. Or, I mean, according to these guys, they said that it would make it challenging. Again, quoting Eric Schaefer, "Finally, we rebuilt a lot of it through what people had at their homes. I had a big chunk of it. Went home, pulled out the hard drive or whatever we did back then. Spent a few days reconstructing it, which ended up working fine, except we lost all of the history. We lost a lot of the assets and art assets. It would make it very difficult for Blizzard to do Diablo 2 Remaster because all of the assets we used are pretty much gone. They'd have to make it completely from scratch." I do think it is interesting, though, that Max Schaefer, Eric Schaefer, and David Brevik have all said at one point or another that a Diablo 2 remaster is really not worth the time or would be too difficult for Blizzard to accomplish. Now, could they do it? Yes, I'm sure if they really wanted to, they could remaster Diablo 2, but it's going to be a lot of work, and is it really even worth it for them? I don't think it is. But this new information about the fact that the original assets are pretty much gone from Diablo 2, it really does support that theory of Blizzard never making a Diablo 2 remaster. And that was one of the rumors around BlizzCon 2019 that we were going to see a Diablo 4 and a D2 remake. Now, obviously, we got D4. My overall impressions are pretty positive towards that, but no mention at all about a Diablo 2 remake. Knowing that Blizzard no longer has any of the original assets, what do you guys think we would get for a D2 remaster if they did it? Would we get something similar to the StarCraft 1 texture update? Would we get something like the fan-made Curse of Tristram project, which is awesome? It's a completely new take on Diablo 2, but does it feel like Diablo 2? Not really. Or would we end up with something like the Diablo 2 HD mod? Now, this also presents its own problems as well. One of the biggest issues about just simply upping the resolution in Diablo 2 is that a lot of the game mechanics and monster AI is centered around an 800 by 600 tile grid layout. It just doesn't really work well with modern day video games, so they'd have to completely redo everything from scratch. Quoting David Brevik specifically from a 2018 IGN interview, "I can say from a technical standpoint that it's going to be extremely difficult, that you will not be able to capture it exactly the way that it was. The number one reason is because of the shape of the screen, because the screens back then were 800 by 600 and largely square, and now they're not. They're 16 by 9 and 16 by 10. We did a lot of tricks." Now, does this mean that Blizzard is incapable of making a Diablo 2 remaster? No, it doesn't at all. But it really continues to emphasize that point that it's really not going to be worth their time to make a Diablo 2 remaster. Now, I could be totally wrong. We could see BlizzCon 2020, a D2 remaster, but it's highly unlikely. I think that they're better off focusing the majority of their time and effort into Diablo 4 as opposed to trying to appeal to a somewhat smaller audience. It just makes more sense to me that they take all of their time and effort and put it into Diablo 4. Now, again, the Diablo 4 development team is completely different from the Classics game team, so I could really not be in the ballpark of what Blizzard is actually doing behind the scenes. This is largely just speculation. But guys, I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section below about this little Diablo 2 hiccup development thing that was revealed from these guys, or your thoughts on a potential Diablo 2 remaster. Just would like to hear your thoughts and opinions. Other than that, guys, if you could throw a like on this video, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my Diablo 2 channel. I post new weekly content and stream on a consistent basis, so there's always new stuff to look forward to, and your support with a sub would mean a lot. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll see you in my next Diablo 2 video or live stream. Peace out.